Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for game 2 of the last series of the day between Riddle and Roligan esports. And it started off with Riddle getting that win, number 1, in a very convincing fashion, actually. So looking at game 2 now, what does Roligan have to do to make this into a 1-1?
I think the proactive game that they showed in the second series of the day where they played against Singularity was super impressive. They were able to pick a beneficial bot lane matchup with Caitlyn Janna, get the tower by I think like 10 minutes, then rotate top, get that tower, keep rotating, keep sieging, and then force Singularity to forfeit the game at 21 minutes, which is really good. So I think that I want to see Roligan go for the proactive bottom lane, go for the Caitlyn. It's going to be a very highly valued pick because we saw Tide play to good effect last game as well. So try and secure the Caitlyn, try and secure a good bot lane matchup, and then play proactively around your bottom side.
Because they push a lot in the pick and ban phase to get the Saya, to get the Sejuani, and to get the Rakan. And I mean, all of these are really strong picks, but looking at the game, none of them really had a huge impact. And a lot of the times, it wasn't really that it was a bad team composition, but mostly that these players went in. Rakan went in by himself, and then no one followed up. He lost his flash, and he had to go out again. And the same time with Sejuani as well, you could see him go in, get the ultimate off, and then immediately, like, there's no follow-up, and they had to go back. And also, I have to discuss Alec, because Alec versus Singularity, really strong with Cassiopeia. Last game of Vladimir didn't really have any impact at all.
For sure. I mean, he also got kind of counterpicked by the Anivia, who can keep Vladimir at a distance really well. So not the best matchup for him there. Gotta say, I really enjoyed the draft from Roligan, at least the first 3 picks. Going Saya Sejuani is so smart because you can't really play Rakan without the Sejuani, so you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself to get the Saya Rakan and also to take away an S-tier jungler from the enemy team. So that was really smart, but then they had 2 losing solo laners, so having a smart draft for the bottom side and the jungle doesn't really matter too much then.
No, it's very true. And I think that Roligan, they played well versus Singularity because they had the upper hand. They know how to close the game. But when playing from behind, they were just either not doing anything at all and just falling back and kind of waiting for a mistake to happen, or they were just doing too much, really, and trying too hard to get the picks, not getting them, forcing either just using their flashes or just dying, basically. But looking at these bans, not too surprising to see both Braum and the Camille ban immediately from Roligan, as well as the Saya. That is interesting versus Tide because, as you mentioned before, Caitlyn is such a contested pick between these two AD carries, as both Tide and Croxy has done really well with them so far in the tournament.
For sure, these players have been loving the Caitlyn, and it's going to be a high priority pick if it's left open. With this Sejuani ban, also got to highlight that there were no mid lane bans. So the likes of Azir, Ryze, Cassiopeia are all open, and we saw Alec playing a great game on the Cassiopeia. Something like a Caitlyn would be a strong first pick here, though, in my opinion, because these teams have been showing so far in the tournament that they've been so confident to play this proactive, pushing, sieging style.
And here is the Caitlyn first pick for Croxy, so they are going to prioritize that, leaving open everything, basically, for the second picks for Riddle. And I'm just gonna have to ask you a quick personal question, but could you just like scoot just a little bit, because I feel like I feel like I'm getting like pushed out of the camera. So if you could just, that's better. That
something
is
like this?
so much. Yeah, something like that is beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. I was like, you know, nothing personal. I just felt like my space was getting invaded.
Thank you for clarifying that it was nothing personal. Otherwise, I might have been a little bit offended, but now that's fine.
I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. So let's have a look again at the picks and bans. At Tristana now getting picked for Tide. And I do believe in the pick, but it's a very interesting matchup because Caitlyn is brutal versus Tristana in the lane phase.
Caitlyn does have a clear advantage in the 1 versus 1, at least in the first like 6 or 7 levels when it just comes to poking down. I would love to see Tristana together with an all-inning aggressive support, though. Something like an Alistar or a Thresh. That is Tristana's, one of her biggest strengths, is actually something that a lot of people don't recognize, is her big base damages early on in the lane. Like level 3 all-in, she's one of the highest damage AD carries, and that is a Janna blind pick. This is where we have to see like Alistar, Thresh, Blitzcrank. There are so many good matchups into this Janna. It's not something I'd recommend blind picking, and I'd love to see our killers go for an aggressive supporter to punish the Janna.
Yeah, and also they can wait with this forever. They can also just look at the rest of Roligan esports team comp and pick whatever fits into that. As you mentioned, there are so many supports who fits that aggressive play style. Now Benedict's going with the Orianna versus Alex Cassiopeia, and this is something that I wanted to see from Roligan esports. There, that carry mid laner in Alex's hands.
Yeah, he did a really good job on that in the previous series against Singularity. Pretty much, I'm not going to say solo carried because he also had a great bottom lane, but did a really good job at carrying from the mid lane right there. Bit interested to see the Orianna right there with everything open, the likes of a Ryze and an Azir. But when it just, if they're looking to pick an all-inning bottom lane that's going to play very aggressively, having a safe wave-clearing mid laner that you can just hug the tower, be safe, farm up and not die, Orianna is pretty much what's fitting that description the best. So not too sad about that pick.
And also Riddle going with a different kind of team composition this time, banning Jarvan in the second rotation of bans, picking up Kha'Zix. I would have expected actually to rather pick Jarvan together when you know that you want to go with the Orianna, maybe, at least having it open. But now they're worried about having it against them instead, also with the Elise versus Kha'Zix. So I believe Scooter is looking to go for the aggressive invades and really having that solo carry play style in his hands. On the other hand, Alistar and Lulu banned.
Alistar is the support that I would have picked here if I was on the side of Riddle. Good synergy with Orianna as well as the Tristana, and good against the Janna, but gets banned away from Roligan, so they pretty much know what's up. Also gotta mention that so far in every game we've seen, Nidalee has been banned against Tranan. This time, Riddle has banned 5 junglers, but none of them are called Nidalee. So if Tranan wants to take this 1v1 matchup to the next level, go for this like super carry jungler matchup with a really high mechanical intensity, Nidalee versus Kha'Zix, you can't pretty much go further in that direction than that matchup.
And Tron, as you mentioned, has had Nidalee banned against him in every single game we have seen him play so far. Here comes the Shogat for the top lane. Is that versus the Sion? So it's quite a bit of a stalemate up there. It's going to be a lot of wet noodle fighting, as both of them have the extra shields and the extra sustains to stick around forever. And now the last pick for Roligan esports, not looking to be a Nidalee, but instead maybe a Shyvana, which is interesting in this team composition.
That is a bit of a weird pick. I mean, it is a strong champion, utilizes press the attack really well, which was recently buffed, as we mentioned in the earlier games. So definitely a champion that can farm up really quickly, also get the counter jungling down and be a nuisance in that regard. But they don't really have a good primary engage right now in Roligan eSport. Shyvana wants to follow up on someone else engaging. She has a hard time gap closing in and of her own. And that is a Cillian getting picked for our killers, where I would have loved to see something like a Thresh or a Blitzcrank. That is a kind of a very different kind of a support, but still pretty decent up against the Janna.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Achilles with Cillian will be able to poke a lot with this, but at the same time, Cillian will struggle a bit if being ganked. Of course, versus Shyvana, I think it's a good choice, since Shyvana doesn't really have that CC. Janna doesn't really have the CC to keep Cillian to stick around, so they can just run away as soon as they see anything on the map coming their way.
Yeah, the disengage coming out from the likes of Orianna and Cillian are going to be very beneficial for Riddle, because the primary engage isn't really there for Roligan if they want to catch out the enemy team. Their best option is to have a Righteous Glory on the Cho'Gath and just run up, silence, and rupture and try to hit someone with that and then follow up with Tron and Shyvana. But other than that, the possibilities of an engage for Roligan doesn't look too bright, so I gotta give the draft advantage to Riddle here.
Yeah, Riddle again looking to take this game. They got game 1 in a very convincing fashion, looking to get game 2 as well. At the same time, Roligan right now, I think their team comp really highlights their strengths as individuals. What we haven't seen them do, versus Riddle at least, is play as a team. They knew how to play versus Singularity when they were ahead. But versus Riddle, I feel like they almost have to sort of count on falling behind, because Riddle as a team just shows that they're rotating the map so much better than Roligan are able to. So right now, the question is, do they have the mentality to change their play style and play as a unit or will they falter again as soon as you get into the mid and late game?
I think that's such a great point. Playing from behind, that's not something that these teams are too used to practicing with. So it's going to be a difficult feat for either of these teams when they are starting to fall behind, which is something that you really need to practice with. I mean, play scrims, fall behind. What happens a lot of the time is that you're going to be FFing pretty soon after that, instead of trying to play out the scrims, and that could come back to bite you in these scenarios, because when you're falling behind, if you don't really know what to do, you're going to have a really tough time, and that's what happened to Roligan in the last game.
Achilles taking some poke down here as Croxy seeming so much more comfortable with the Caitlyn rather than the Saya. I feel like as well as Keaton. I mean, game 1 today, we saw Keaton versus Singularity play the Janna as well. I am 99% sure, at least if I don't remember this incorrectly.
I think so, yeah.
And Keaton really excelled on playing these sort of defensive supports, while playing against Rakan, he was sort of underwhelming. He kind of went in. He actually failed the Rakan ultimate W combination at some point as well. So I think this is going to be so much more comfortable for Roligan.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a duo lane that they have a lot of confidence with. They know they can punish in the 2 versus 2 matchup and get an early tower. And they're starting out from the get-go right now with the bottom lane of Riddle leashing for Scooter. That means that Roligan can push the lane and get the push advantage early on.
A little bit of damage being dealt by Rudolph. Rudolph, who excelled on his Camille last game, is now instead going to play a more traditional tank. Also an interesting pick, see, after the Camille that he was playing before.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much action to go towards the top side. If I had, like, these are 2 of the, if not the 2 strongest tanks in the current metagame. If I'd have to give an advantage to either of the champions, I'd say that Shogat has slightly more utility, slightly more reliable crowd control in terms of the silence, which is so extremely strong, and then the extra X factor of being able to secure Barons and Dragons with that feast. So slight advantage to Shogat in terms of personal preference, but both of them really strong and not going to be able to put down too much hurt in the 1v1 matchup on top.
Down bottom lane now, Achilles is trying to poke as much as he can with his time bombs. Not really finding their mark though. Scooter is in mid lane now, looking for Alec, flashing in even as Alec now being slowed, not flashing immediately. He's going to back off instead, waiting for his jungle to come back and help him. Scooter survives this no problem at all with the extra shield from Bendix, but look at Bendix. He was in a 1 versus 1 before and he's taking a lot of damage.
Very worthwhile trade there though from Scooter, using his flash to burn the flash and the heal from Alec. And we've mentioned it before, and I'm gonna mention it again because it's so important in these games. Punishing the lack of summoner spells. You can bet that Scooter's gonna be back in mid lane at least once he's hit level 6 and putting more pressure on towards Alec. So now it's pretty much up to Tronan to realize this and to help out, is to screen for his mid laner in the 2v2.
A big problem right now, though, for Alec. Looking at the last hits, he was forced to recall. He's really behind now in last hits, and getting into that little bit of a weird recall timing will give Benedix the tier right now, coming back into the lane with infinite sustain.
That is a very good point, not being able to afford the tier on your first back as a Cassiopeia. That is nothing else. Okay, I'm not going to call that a disaster, but that is really unfortunate for him, as that item is really something that you want to be stacking up starting as soon as possible. So I'm expecting Alec to just push out this wave real quickly and then backing for the tier.
And here is the recall. The question is if Scooter can get into this action before its recall has finished channeling. No, it's not. Scooter is right now instead just going to wait and see if he can catch Tronan instead.
We can see Tide right now with the Doran's shield as his starting item. He has still been forced to use his first potion and it's gotten poked down really far from that. So Kirin and Crocs, we've seen them maneuver this duo lane really well before the Caitlyn and the Janna together. It's a very strong duo. I'm still not a fan at all of blind picking Janna because it can be countered by stuff like Alistar, Thresh, and Blitzcrank. But Achilles elected not to Cillian is going to be a stronger choice later on, with the ultimate having really big impact, especially if used on towards someone like Sude, who can dive in and then get resurrected by the Cillian. But early on in the laning phase, it's not going to have as much presence, and they are getting punished for it. Actually, Tide recalled at such an item, at such a gold value, that he was able to pick up the pickaxe, but no potions. And Sang, you know what's going to happen when you lane versus Caitlyn with no potions.
Yeah, that is going to be very difficult. As a Tristana too, I mean, you don't really have the range in the early stages. And with Cillian, of course, Cillian can speed you up, sure. But speed is not going to save you when you're taking damage every time you go for a last hit.
Yeah, and we can see right there the Diana shield working out really well against the Cillian time bombs. Although the Diana shield has a lot longer cooldown, you're still able to predict exactly when the Cillian time bombs are going to be hitting you, and that shield is going to be very beneficial for Kitten. So Croxy and Kitten really kind of getting an advantage in the 2 versus 2 matchup, but maybe not as big of an advantage as we've been thinking.
Another little bit of awkward recall by Tide on bottom lane. Well, up here is looking to be a dive, as the flash is immediately used by Nijus. Will not be enough. Tries to stick around under the turret, but oh! A huge misplay! Nijun dies in the end. But Skude and Rudolph misplayed that vastly.
Wow, that is not something that you want to see at all. I mean, the play is so good in theory, especially since Cho'Gath just used the feast on a minion like seconds before Skude revealed himself, but Rudolph just tanking one hit too many, and Nihus on this Cho'Gath starting to look not as bad as you might have been thinking. TPing back to the lane as well, whereas Rudolph had his TP down, so he will catch up in the CS department.
Yeah, that was bad, to be honest. In that top lane as well, I mean, of course, both of these champions are really tanky, so it's not going to matter that much in the 1 versus 1, but looking at team fights later, when one has a finished item and one doesn't, you can use so much timing and get the objectives with that.
Absolutely, TK advantage for Rudolph is going to be up in about a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes, I think. Speaking of TPs, though, there are no other TPs on the map. See how smoothly I got myself out of that.
Speaking of TPs, there are none, as the game has now been paused, but will resume immediately. So just a quick pause, as maybe one of the players is having maybe some problems with their keyboards or something. They are playing from back home. And it looks like Nijus might be blaming that earlier death on lag, as he just disconnected and is probably going to reconnect very soon. So looking back at that top lane, I mean, those things happen, right? And to be honest, like, we used to see a lot of these sort of misplays happen in LCS and such. Like, I would say a long time ago, although it still happens from time to time. But it really shows that anything can happen at this stage. I mean, these players are really good. A lot of them actually have played in a lot of tournaments, especially the Norwegian teams, as they have Telenor to play in. But at the same time, like, the nerves, it's getting late. Like, all of these things factor into the game.
Absolutely, and the margins are so small in that top lane dive. Like, if the sign would have backed off like maybe half a second earlier, 1 second earlier, that fight would have been completely different, and the Cho'Gath would not have been able to pick up the return kill. So it's really just these sort of split-second decisions that takes a toll on you in the extended period of time, because you've been playing 2 or 3 games before this, even 3 or 4 games before this one, so you're going to be starting to get a bit tired.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this earlier today. Like, it's difficult to play so many games in one day, but these players, well, I wouldn't say they're making it look easy, but they're making it look a lot easier than if I would have tried it.
For sure, and if I would have tried it as well, you can bet that. Croxy with a 20 CS lead and pressure advantage on towards the bottom side will let Tronen go for the Cloud Dragon. That is not generally a dragon that you value that highly, but with champions like Shyvana, like Cho'Gath, and even like Cassiopeia is running the Phase Rush just for the increased movement speed, that is going to be a team that benefits more from Cloud Dragon than a lot of other team comps. So I kind of like Tonen prioritizing that. Of course, dragons are going to be extra beneficial when you're playing Shyvana because of your passive as well, giving you increased resistances.
I'm a little bit surprised that Riddle didn't opt to go for more control around the dragon. Of course, their bot lane that they picked into Croxy and Kieran's bot lane as they picked it in the first rotation, they're actually losing, and they're losing quite heavily. They're behind, just tied behind in 500 gold. And also going for the Doran's shield, that is more gold, not doing any extra damage. So right now Croxy is in a great position, going for the BF sword as well. And if they just can get a little bit of help from Tronen as well, they can get that first tower and they can start to build towards the kind of game that won them the game 3 versus Singularity earlier today.
Yeah, you mentioned the tower. That is the important factor here. So if I may ask our beautiful, lovely observer to take a look at the bottom lane tower HP. It looks like the dual lane of Croxy and Kitten has not been able to put down too much hurt right there. Oh, and there it is, just taking about like 1/4 of the turret HP. So Titan Achilles holding onto their towers a lot better than the dual lane of Singularity did.
And he just up top lane as well. He got that solo kill in the first blood gold as well. Tronen now in a 1 versus 1 with Tide, with Skuda, I mean. Is actually dealing very well with it. Wasn't really scared getting that burst, knowing that Skuda had everything on cooldown. He turned back again, knowing he had Dragon Form to get out of that situation. These are the kind of like small pokes that I would rather see as just a big team call rather than one player trying to make something happen by himself.
Yeah, I think the most important thing there in the jungle duel was that Tronen did not know where Bendix was, but Alec was back in the base just having shot, so the mid lane roam was going to come in faster for the opponent right there, which means that just it's better to be safe than sorry once more. Just take the Dragon Form out of there. Minion wave pushing in the bottom side, actually going towards Titan Achilles right now. But here comes Tronen. I'm not sure if he was spotted out by Achilles there, but with the Cillian speed up as well as the exhaust, they're going to be safe from ganks for now, I think.
Yeah, smart ward places by Skuda before earlier where he was backing off. Make sure that Tronen does not get any ganks off. Also, Croxy right now, not too worried about Achilles, as Achilles went with the tier, will stack for late game, but not dealing too much damage right now. Scoot is still going for this big fight, going in on Croxy, forcing the flashes, Keaton using the Monsoon as well. Teleport now coming in, and I think they're gonna go for the turret, as this teleport was a little bit too late to do anything else. Although Croxy has so much wave clear, no problem at all with that extra gold he has gotten from both pickaxe and BF sword to handle this push.
Wow, Nihus on this Shogun still has the TP available, and it looks like there is a good TP ward in behind. So if Roligan wants to go for the TP flank there, that would be an opportunity, but still runs back towards the top side. So a small win there for Roligan, saving the TP compared to Riddle, who used that to get down towards the bottom side.
I'm honestly a little bit disappointed that Roligan did not pull the trigger on that fight. You know, having the TP at that position, having the ward, I think they definitely could have gone for it. Instead, I feel like game 1 really damaged their confidence, and right now they're sort of trying to scale, but versus this team, I mean, you can't scale forever. You're still versus an Orianna, you're still versus a Tristana. That is going to cost you if you try to stall it out for too long. So I really want to see Roligan, you know, go for these fights when they have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got to utilize this Caitlyn's early game. You are about 30-ish CS up right now, but if you're not getting tower, if you're not able to rotate after that, that's not going to be too big of a factor, because the Caitlyn will get out here by the stun eventually. That's some big damage though. Ace in the hole is on cooldown, however, so won't be able to go for that.
Still gonna force both Tide and Achilles to back off. Still a big win. I think that is the turret. The turret must go down now. I mean, Skuda is on his way, but I don't think he can handle this alone. He's a Kha'Zix. He does not have the wave clear to defend this turret.
Yeah, absolutely not. Without the W evolve, since you're only level 8, you're gonna have the ultimate instead. So this might be the tower going down. Bendix is going down though.
Bendix is still there. Flash by Croxy is going to avoid the shockwave combination.
That was actually just the Caliber net being used by him since Flash was on cooldown. Still able to get away though, so quick fingers.
Well played by Croxy. A good spot there on the 90 Caliber net. Alec in mid lane though decides to recall after pushing in the wave. Did not get any damage off on that turret, I believe.
Yeah, and we'll see if Titan Archelaus chooses to go for the bottom lane tower right now. It's not going to be the case though. We gotta mention the top items because I think that the rush towards the Banner of Command is interesting for Cho'Gath. It is definitely something you can do in certain situations if you wanna try to punish the top lane and if you don't really need any other item to survive in a 1-versus-1. The latter is definitely the case for Nihus here, but I don't think it's a great choice just because there are 6 dematerializers sitting on Rudolph's side. Whenever a Baron minion a banner minion will get spawned in the top lane, there's going to be a dematerializer there to counter that, at least for the first 6 times, so not too big of a fan of that.
And also, like, sure, if he was off versus an AP top lane, but versus an AD top lane doesn't do much either. Flash immediately by Nijus. He's so tanky, I think he can survive this. But here comes the jungler as well, as Scooter is there, and Tide gets the kill.
Wow, and Riddle pulling the trigger on the lane swap before Roligan did though. However, they have lost the second Cloud Dragon, they have lost first tower in the bottom side, and it looks like Proxy and Kitten are just still going towards the bottom lane together with Tron, and with the Shyvana Q proccing on towers, they're going to be killing towers a lot faster than Riddle will be able to, so I think this was a mistake from Riddle. They've lost Dragon, they've lost 2 towers, they might get 2 towers in return, but still not sure if that's a worthwhile trade. And with the TP coming in, they're not even going to be able to finish off this tower.
Roligan so calm in this situation, just goes for the objectives. And this is Roligan that was playing versus Singularity earlier today. That is the kind of rotations that you want to play. Also, Alec in mid lane versus Benedict won that 1-versus-1, forced out the flash, and still has his heal and his flash up.
Yeah, a Cassiopeia with the summoners available is always going to be a big threat. Can go forward with a Petrifying Gauge flash combination at any time though. Herald going over to the side of Roligan is going to be a really good thing for them with Tron coming in to pick this up. Can be used in towards the mid lane to break that open, and I think Herald goes up in value when you're up against a champion in the mid lane with a good wave clear. So normally it's going to be really hard to take down the tower of Orianna because of her good, consistent long-range wave clear. She can't really deal with a Herald on her own though, so being able to crack open the mid lane would be a good choice for them if they can force a fight together with a Herald.
And this is a late scaling comp from Riddle, and we could see that from the get-go, and also with the Cillian going with a tier as his second item. Of course, I mean, that is not really a support, that is an extra AP carry. He's just waiting for the late game. So Riddle will be fine with stalling this out, but at the same time, Roligan now with the Rift Herald being able to get the turrets with the extra gold they got from first Tower Blood as well. I mean, I think they're very comfortable as well. It's not like they have a bad late game either.
No, not at all. And I think just sending the Cassiopeia towards the top side is a good choice. Level 12 against Benix. This might be a solo kill depending on which route Benix chooses to take. Oh, does he know that Aldic is there?
I think he sensed him.
The spider sense tingling?
I think his spider sense was tingling. He felt something at least because he did not have any wards, but he saw Alec up there but earlier. Monsoon will be used to save Proxy as Tide again goes in for an aggressive play, and I like to see Tristana use the rocket jump aggressively, but it's a big problem versus Ajana, of course. I mean, even if you jump in, you're just gonna get shoved out immediately.
Yeah, and you could see there the insane pressure that's coming out from the Kazakhs with the mobility boots. And I mean, the Kazakhs players that we've been seeing so far have been playing decently, but I still haven't seen these really smart assassination attempts that I've been seeing from Kazakhs players in like the LCS and the LCK, where they can stay around the bushes, use that evolved ultimate together with the mobility boots to make picks happen. Here we go, Banner Minion and Herald in the mid lane.
Skude looking for the flank, has been spotted on a ward. Herald actually not getting the job done, as the turret still has half HP left. And Alec, even though he was handling his lane versus Benix, still didn't get any damage off on the turrets, so I'm not sure about the decision to use Rift Herald at that specific moment. I think they could have utilized it better.
Totally agree with you right there. A failure for Roligan Esports for sure. Using the Herald without having a minion wave to accompany it means you won't be able to go up and pressure the tower. And having kind of wasted Herald like that, they're gonna have a really hard time at cracking this mid lane tower open. And that is the big key to get map control in the enemy jungle, to be able to move on towards the next phase of the game. So right now, it looks like the scaling comp of Riddle will be able to keep scaling without losing their towers. And that means that Roligan might be losing out on a 2-0 in this matchup if they're not able to make more things happen.
And also Roligan, Croxy not going for the rapid fire cannon, instead with the static shiv. So we'll have a little bit more damage, a little bit more wave clear, but not the extra range to poke on the turrets. You can see right now, they're struggling. They're trying to get turrets everywhere, but top turret is hard to push against solo because you don't have your turret and the safety that comes with it. You don't have the range to poke the mid lane turret, and you can't get through the wave clear.
So the pressure is definitely on Roligan to make things happen. I think the big key right now is Alec. If he goes up in a 1v1 versus Bendix, with both summoners available, he has a lot of playmaking potential on this Cassiopeia. So I think a good plan for Roligan would be to try and get Alec in a 1v1 versus Bendix and try to punish him. That is exactly what they're doing right now, as Alec is sitting in the top side with Bendix going up there.
And I think Alex is comfortable in this 1v1 even without a turret, although I would have loved to see more pressure on Bendix while he didn't have his flash. There's been a lot of time right now where Roligan could have made more rotations around the map, better zoning, and just force Bendix to back off. Right now, I think he's still going to be comfortable, and Alec is even going for mid lane, now going to brute force this turret. Conan is tanking it up, although getting dangerously low from the Tides of Tristana.
Yeah, we saw Rudolph and Scooter being off kind of towards the side, not in position to save that tower. And
Shockwave being used, flash immediately from by Alec. Unstoppable Rudolph going in, but Alec deploying the shield will keep him alive for now. Tronen instead, he gets Bendix, and there comes Nijus as well, getting the kill on Archilles, as Archilles was not even able to use his ultimate before it happened. That are 2-3 kills even by Roligan, as Riddle tried to go in a little bit too aggressive. Tide even taking the extra damage from the ace in the hole, and Baron is open. Although there is no ultimate for Nijus, I don't think they're gonna have any problem at all picking this Baron up. No one there to stop them.
Scooter is, as I'm gonna say, Scooter is still alive. He dies 1v1 with Kirin, I think. So Baron's gonna go over to the team of Roligan, and they do have one banner on their team already, so you know what time it is. It's gonna be sieging time after that.
I thought you were going to go with banner time, like hammer time, banner time. I was really excited for that, like, yeah, he's gonna drop the pun, he's gonna do it. Banner, sieging time.
Sieging time.
And I'm...
Not as exciting.
No, like...
I don't do humor, so that's...
You're a funny guy. Like, I laugh at you.
You laugh at me, yeah, you don't laugh at what I say, laugh
like,
at me.
I don't know what the difference is.
And that's because you're a bad person.
That is also true. That is also true. But
yeah,
you still like me. So it's fine. I said like, not love.
I mean, I get some casting gigs from pretending I like you.
That is good. That is good. That is a reason to like me. Now, Dragon, of course, went to Riddle, but it's an Ocean Dragon, not going to give them too much. And a little bit of a luck actually here, locking out on 2 Cloud Dragons before that for Roligan. So they're one team that benefits a lot from this, as you mentioned before. Gonna pick up another kill. I do not think this Chrono Shift is going to be enough to keep Benedict alive. We'll save him for a couple of more seconds as Roligan keeps demolishing turrets and taking lives. Now forcing the flash by Archilles as well. Almost dies just from the poison by Alec. And Roligan play this match to win it. They are everywhere now with the Baron buff.
And there's been a couple of key double bombs from Achilles, one in the mid lane earlier and one here in the top side engagement, that have not been able to land the bombs on the same target, thus proccing the stun. And I don't think the Cillian support pick has been paying off so far. You have the opportunity to counter pick a Janna, you go for a Cillian, you kind of lose out on the laning phase, you're hoping to bring more utility later on, and sure, the ultimate is great, but if you can't land the stuns, you're not going to be contributing as much as some other support picks.
I mean, just having one tank on your team as well, when you have the Cillian and they have the front line and you fall behind, yeah, sure, you can save your teammates, but you still don't have a front line to save them from when they're resurrected. So that's what keeps happening right now. And also versus the Shogat with the extra silence there, we saw Achilles die before he could use his ultimate, even in the earlier fight, just because they're not picking, they're not respecting the pick and ban phase, I would say.
Yeah, pick and ban going not hugely in the favor of Roligan, but definitely have been able to take advantage of the champions that they have been getting at so far. Now let's see what their next move is going to be. The Deuce will have the Baron for a while. They have a banner on cooldown actually from the Cho'Gath, so they have used that at some point on the map. But the Siege is going to be on. They do have the Caitlyn traps, they do have the zoning from the Cassiopeia, and there we can see that Achilles is taking a bunch of poke damage while not being able to land the double bombs there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the banner of command. Oh, resurrection onto the miasma. Not going to save anyone as Rudid dies just seconds later. And Roligan are looking to get the inhibitor turret. They are so tanky, and with the extra damage you get in both AD and AP, also buffed for the AP right now with the Baron buff, just now timing out. The inhibitor is wide open. Proxy forcing Bandix to back off. Not tanky enough as Rudolph falls quickly. Inhibitor about to go down, and Riddle are just struggling right now to stay in the game.
Yeah, not really on the same page right there, not knowing whether to engage the fight under the tower, whether to give up the inhib completely. Kind of did a bit of both, like some people went forward and tried to fight, some people said, let's just give this up and not fight there. So what has been Riddle's strengths in the early games, having that team coordination, is starting to look like a weakness in this game, or perhaps just Roligan looking really strong.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, I agree.
A little bit of both. We know that Riddle are a strong team, and we know that Roligan definitely are a strong team too, but in game one, Riddle were so dominant that we kind of forgot that Roligan steamrolled their game earlier today. So, I mean, this is what we get for like sort of counting them out already earlier. I mean, this is what we get. Roligan right now in full control of the game, in a reverse of what we saw in their first game versus Riddle. But right now, they have complete control, forcing Alec to flash away right now. Turning back with the Stone Gaze, does not have enough DPS, instead being caught with the Shockwave. Tristan unstoppable, using Dragon Form to try to chase, but there are really nothing there to help him. What is Scooter doing? Scooter goes in for Alec, but Alec now again did not use his ultimate before. I was certain he used his Stone Gaze before. He said it was just a miasma. So resurrected and rooted and shooted. He has gone down as Scooter now has been killed, and Riddle does not really have anything more to use in this fight. The Tristana still on 2 items, not strong enough. Instead you can see the Caitlyn with the rapid fire cannon, Shiv and the Infinity Edge dealing massive damage from the backline. Just going forward, getting the inhibitor, getting the picks on the front line. Nijus also so much DPS and still being so tanky. There's nothing they can do. Achilles with the Cillian support has just been underwhelming. Can't do anything but delay the inevitable demise of his teammates.
Wow, Scooty went for the big play right there, tried to go for the stealth to bring down Alec, but was not able to do it. And then the waste of the Cillian ultimate to try and save him when he's already alone in the middle of the enemy team. We said it before, but we're calling out the Cillian pick right now, not doing too much. And Roligan, they're having the times of their lives right now, especially Croxy on this Caitlyn. When you're playing the longest range champion in the game with a rapid fire cannon on top of that, because why not? You're just gonna do so much poke damage. and Baron is going to be up in about 25 seconds. They have so much Baron damage with the Shyvana and the Cassiopeia. They have so much zoning with the Caitlyn traps and the Cassio. This is going to be almost impossible, but I would be surprised if Riddle did not try to at least go for the steal here. Skude is a player that likes to take risks.
Yeah, Skude, you can definitely try to go for the steal versus the Shogat and versus the Shyvana, and also the level discrepancy. That is going to be an uphill battle. They do not have enough vision. He's still going to go for it. Right now about to be zoned by Nijus. Nijus is so tanky, he can handle this by himself. Instead looks at the team are going to turn onto Riddle. Shockwave hits. Tronen is very low. He will have to back off right now. See Alec trying to get into position as Proxy with the crit, dealing massive damage on the backline. Finally, Tronen goes down, but he gets Rudolph with him. Nijus was a little bit out of position, trying to chase Skude out of it, and now they don't have the jungler anymore. Are they still going to go for the Baron?
Feast is on cooldown. Not too long of a cooldown. I'm not sure exactly how many seconds there are still left, but do not have the potential.
Oh, Skude almost dies. Heal's been used to save him, and I think Roligan still can get this Baron even without any burst. They have such great control of the area that nothing can stop them. Baron goes down. Tronen is not going to get it. No problem still. That is the banner of command. Baron Siege Minion yet again.
Yeah, they've got this setup to try and finish this game around 30 minutes. They've got the double Cloud Drake. They have all the tools that they need to go for the finish right now. Only Inhib Tower standing is in the bottom lane, and that is just where everyone on Roligan Esports are running right now. 5 people bottom lane with a banner, with a Baron. This is going to be extremely hard for Riddle to come back from. They're going to need a miracle team fight.
Yeah, a miracle team fight. Indeed, they need to capture Croxy, they need to burst Alex, and they have to do it through the huge front line of Nijus and Tronen, and also all of the shields from Keaton and the heal. It's definitely not going to be easy, as a third Cloud Dragon has just been secured, and look at that movement speed.
Yeah, Cloud Dragon used to be called Cloud Dragon because people thought it was useless, but in fact it is not bad at all when you've got a team comp like this. Shogat and Shyvana needs the movement speed to catch up to the opponents, and Cassiopeia really likes the movement speed as well. This is going to have to be a good engage from Riddle if they're going to be able to come back here. Do have the dematerializer on Riddle though to take down this Baron minion, but waste the Sion ultimate. That must have been a misclick. Sion ulti used for no apparent reason.
Misclick, and also look at him. He can't get close to the empowered siege minion. He does not get close to it. It's still attacking, it's still there. Even though he has the minion dematerializers, the front line is just too strong. The DPS of Roligan is just too big. They can't get through. Inhibitor top lane just respawned now. Tide is looking for the flank, but he does not have enough damage. He's on 3 items, but still no Lost Whisper, meaning that the front line of Nijus and Tronen are just too heavy for him to handle with 2 Randuin's Omens. They're gonna back off with this, playing this very safely. Going to go mid lane probably next, as the Inhibitor would just spawn in a few seconds, I believe, but this does not look good for Riddle.
Yeah, 3 inhibs down his Nexus towers. This is gonna have to be a miracle fight for Riddle under their own Nexus. I would not say it's impossible because they have some champions that can really go for these sort of outplays. If they get a good combination with Sion coming in with the ultimate with an Orianna ball on top of him, gets a couple of people with the AoE damage, then they have 2 reset champs. They have Kha'Zix and Tristana, who both have the potential to get the resets should the enemies go low. But overall, it's a 10k gold deficit. They're up against triple Cloud Dragon. They're gonna need a miracle.
And a miracle has to happen very soon, as Roligan are moving towards the final inhibitor.
Skude is
yet again, Skude is looking for the flank. He goes in, almost gets taken out immediately. Alec now being forced by Rudolph, but Rudolph does not have the damage to do that alone. Instead, the rest of his team has been forced out of the fight. Nijus on the front line, still tanking everything up. Tide cannot get into a good position, still healthy, but does not have the range to do anything.
Wow, this front line from Nijus regenerating so much as this Shogath, such a strong champion. It's a 4 versus 5 for Riddle. They're gonna have to play the League of Legends of their lives to hold on right here.
Well, they're definitely trying. Side being forced to back off by Alec. Alec on the front line right now. Nijus on half HP. Has to back off a little bit, but look at Tide!
That's one crit.
There was one attack, and Tide has to go immediately back into the fountain. Alec, though, about to die. Tide gets the solo kill there on the last turret now, as we go again for another aggressive play. Tide jumping into the fray. Shockwave hits only air. Scooter dies as well. That was the last one to save them. There comes the last fight. That is Nijus with a double kill, and Nexus has gone down for an exciting 1-1 in Roligan versus Riddle.
That is not what I expected after the first game of Riddle. Just dominated, but Roligan steps up, shows that the Danes are not gonna give up easily. 1-1 in this game.
I mean, you could not believe that Riddle won game 1 just from looking at this game. That is what makes it so exciting to see all of these teams play against each other over and over again in these best of 3s, because this is what happens. Roligan really stepped up. They played it smart. They had a good draft this time around, and they played their team composition to its fullest potential, not taking any risks, just controlling the game all around.
Yeah, and Caitlyn is really proving to be the key pick so far. Whichever team has gotten the Caitlyn has won. Sure, it's a 2-game sample size, but still a very strong champion. Was
100%.
100% win rate. Now, but was first pick last time in this game, and I'm expecting it to be very high priority in the next game as well, because getting the bot lane advantage, starting the snowball early on with a lot of tower damage has been proving to be key in this siege-focused meta.
And I think we've also proven that none of these teams really know how to play from behind. And also the minion dematerializer, it's a great strategy to use, but only if you can get into range, because we saw this happen right now, and we saw Rudolph had the minion dematerializer and just couldn't get close because there was just too much DPS. And I again have to give so much credit to Alec, because in game 1 he had almost 0 impact, and in this game he was there on the front line all the time, just zoning everyone.
He really stepped up for sure. And I mean, going for the minion dematerializer point, I think that, yeah, it's a good strategy to have it. Definitely think it's something that you should go for. But when there's such an insane amount of zoning, there's 5 Caitlyn traps in front of the cannon minion. There's the Cassiopeia poison fields. Like, even if your tank is Sion, you can't really walk up to that without taking a bunch of punishment. So, yeah. It just shows the strengths of these sieging and like zone control champions in the current meta.
Yeah, and also Shogat has proven to be like one of the key champions as to Baron control, because all of this we're talking about really with the siege minion and the Baron and all thing, like it's not impossible if you don't have the Baron buff. So you want to have a team comp that really can secure it. And again, Caitlyn with the traps can zone out the enemy team. And with the Shogat and the Feast, it's like borderline impossible to go in to smite steal that. Like, that is going to demand more than a miracle. I don't know what's more than a miracle. That's like 2 miracles.
Yeah,
square.
That's logic for you.
That's logic.
2 miracles,
and it's
more than 1, yeah.
It's more than 1, definitely. So we're going to see more than 1 game in this series. We're going to see more than 2 games in this series, because we're going to game 3 in a few minutes, so stick around.